The Galactic Council had been monitoring the same frequency for over 3,000 years. It was the Universal Distress Channel, a sacred wavelength that every civilized species respected and monitored. The frequency had carried the final screams of dying worlds, the desperate pleas of stranded explorers, and the last words of heroes facing impossible odds. But today, it carried something different. Something that would change everything. Zarathek adjusted her 4 sensory stalks as the strange transmission crackled through the communication array. As the Council's senior communications officer, she had heard every type of distress call imaginable, but this one made her carapace tingle with unease. The signal was strong, impossibly strong, broadcasting on a wide spectrum that suggested either massive technological capability or complete ignorance of proper communication protocols. "By the 7 moons," whispered her assistant Veltar as his tentacles trembled over the control panel. "The power output on this transmission is off the charts. Whoever is sending this has enough energy to reach half the galaxy." The message itself was even more disturbing than its strength. It was being transmitted in over 600 different languages, most of which the Council's vast databases couldn't identify. The Universal Translator struggled with the alien syntax, but the meaning was becoming clear, and it sent chills through the monitoring station. "This is the United Earth Defense Force vessel Prometheus calling any and all vessels in the area. We have encountered hostile alien forces attacking civilian populations in the Kepler 442 system. The attackers appear to be a reptilian species flying ships with organic hulls. They are systematically destroying colonies and showing no mercy to non-combatants." Zarathek's primary eyes widened. The Kepler 442 system was deep in Thraxon territory. The Thraxon Empire was one of the most feared military powers in the galaxy, known for their ruthless expansion and their practice of enslaving or exterminating any species they encountered. Their ships were indeed grown rather than built, using biotechnology that most species found disturbing and primitive. But what truly shocked Zarathek was what came next in the transmission. "We are moving to engage. Repeat, we are moving to engage the hostile forces. Any friendly vessels in the area are advised to maintain safe distance. Prometheus out." The communication array fell silent except for the ambient hum of the station's systems. Zarathek stared at the speakers as if they had personally offended her. Veltar's tentacles had gone completely limp, hanging motionlessly over his console. "Did they just—" Veltar started. "Yes," Zarathek said quietly. "They just declared their intention to attack a Thraxon fleet." The implications were staggering. First, there was apparently an unknown species operating in galactic space. Second, this species called themselves humans from something called Earth. Third, they had just announced their intention to engage the Thraxon in combat, which was either incredibly brave or impossibly stupid. Zarathek quickly activated the priority alert system. Within moments, representatives from dozens of species were appearing on holographic displays around the monitoring station. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was convening faster than it ever had in recorded history. Council Prime Zerion materialized first, his ancient form flickering slightly as the long-range projection stabilized. The elderly Zentarian's numerous eyes focused on Zarathek with the intensity that had made him the most respected leader in galactic history. "Report," Zerion commanded, his voice carrying the authority of 3 millennia of leadership. "Unknown species has issued a distress call from Thraxon space," Zarathek began, her training keeping her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was reporting. "They identify themselves as humans from Earth. They have engaged or are about to engage Thraxon forces." The chamber erupted in chittering, whistling, and harmonized tones as dozens of species began talking at once. Zerion raised one of his 6 arms, and the cacophony immediately stopped. "Play the transmission," he ordered. As the human message played again, Zarathek watched the faces and sensory organs of the assembled representatives. She saw fear, confusion, and something that might have been hope on some faces. The Thraxon representative, war leader Krethvar, was noticeably absent from the session, though that wasn't unusual. The Thraxon rarely participated in council meetings, considering most other species beneath their notice. When the message ended, there was a long moment of silence. Finally, Ambassador Quentin of the peaceful Altarian Federation spoke up. His melodious voice tinged with worry. "Council Prime, we must consider the possibility that these humans don't understand what they're facing. The Thraxon fleet in that system contains at least 40 war vessels. If these humans have only one ship, then they're all dead already," interrupted General Vexhai of the militaristic Corvin Union. His scarred face showed a mixture of respect and pity. "But what a way to go, taking on the Thraxon to protect civilians they've never met." Scientific advisor Dr. Yilan projected a series of holographic displays showing the Kepler 442 system. The colonies under attack belong to the Melody, a species that has never developed faster-than-light travel. They're completely defenseless. The Thraxon are likely there for slaves and to strip the planets of resources. And now, there's a single unknown vessel moving to intercept, Zerion mused, his ancient mind processing the implications. Either these humans are incredibly powerful, incredibly foolish, or incredibly honorable. Or all three, added Ambassador Quentin softly. The strategic situation was unlike anything in galactic history. The Kepler 442 system was at the edge of Thraxon space, but it was also close to several neutral systems and even some council member territories. If the humans somehow managed to damage the Thraxon fleet, it could shift the balance of power in that entire region. If they were destroyed, as seemed most likely, then at least they would have tried to do the right thing. "We need information," Zerion declared. "I want our fastest ships dispatched to monitor the situation, and I want our xenobiology teams to find everything they can about this species called humans and their planet Earth." Dr. Yilan was already working at her console. "Council Prime, I'm detecting energy signatures from the Kepler 442 system. The readings are unusual." "Define unusual," Zerion commanded. "The power levels are enormous. Whatever's happening there is generating energy signatures that our sensors can barely measure from this distance. I'm reading massive plasma discharges, gravity fluctuations, and something that looks like controlled fusion on a scale I've never seen before." General Vexhai leaned forward in his projection. "That could be the Thraxon deploying their planet cracker weapons. They might be trying to end this quickly. Or," Dr. Elon said quietly, studying her readings, "it could be something else entirely." The next several hours passed in tense monitoring and speculation. Long-range sensor arrays across Council space turned toward the distant Kepler 442 system, trying to gather any information about the mysterious humans and their confrontation with the Thraxon. Communication teams worked frantically to find any reference to Earth or humans in their vast databases, but came up empty. It was as if this species had appeared from nowhere, announced themselves to the galaxy by charging headfirst into a battle they couldn't possibly win, and then vanished into the chaos of warfare against the most feared military force in known space. As Zarathek continued monitoring the distress frequency, she couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had just changed. For thousands of years, the galaxy had operated under certain assumptions. The strong preyed upon the weak. Civilian populations were acceptable casualties. The Thraxon were unstoppable. But now there was a species out there that had heard strangers cry. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the tactical display with the calm focus that had earned her command of humanity's first deep space exploration vessel. The Thraxon fleet hung in space before them like a swarm of organic nightmares, their bioships pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that probably meant something threatening in their alien language. 42 contacts confirmed, Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson from the tactical station. They're arranged in a standard predator formation around the third planet. Sensor readings indicate massive population centers under bombardment. Through the main view screen, Sarah could see the distant flashes of weapons fire against the planet's surface. Each flash represented thousands of innocent lives being snuffed out, while the galaxy's supposed protectors sat in their council chambers and debated. It made her stomach churn, but it also strengthened her resolve. "Any response to our hails?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Negative, Captain. They're ignoring us completely." Sarah nodded grimly. The Thraxon had probably never encountered humans before and likely considered a single ship beneath their notice. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their absolute refusal to accept the unacceptable. "Commander Martinez, status on our defensive systems?" The chief engineer looked up from her console, her dark eyes flashing with determination. "All systems green, Captain. The quantum shields are operating at full efficiency, and our new fusion torpedoes are loaded and ready." Sarah took a deep breath. The Prometheus wasn't just humanity's first interstellar vessel. It was their masterpiece. Built in secret over the past decade after detecting alien signals, it incorporated every breakthrough humanity had achieved. Quantum computing allowed for calculations that defied traditional physics. Fusion technology provided virtually unlimited power, and human ingenuity had found ways to make it all work together. But even with their advanced technology, they were still just one ship against 42. "Open a channel to the Thraxon fleet," Sarah ordered. "Channel open, Captain." Sarah stood straighter, projecting the authority of her entire species. "Thraxon vessels, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. You are engaging in unprovoked attacks against civilian populations. Cease your bombardment immediately and withdraw from this system." For a moment, there was only silence. Then the communications array crackled to life with a voice that sounded like grinding stones mixed with predatory satisfaction. "Unknown vessel, you are in Thraxon space. Leave now or be destroyed. The cattle on this world belong to us." Sarah's jaw tightened. Cattle. They called sentient beings cattle. "Thraxon Commander, I am ordering you one final time to cease your attacks and withdraw. If you do not comply, we will stop you." This time, the alien laughter was unmistakable, a harsh sound that spoke of countless conquered worlds and enslaved populations. "You will stop us? One vessel against the might of the Empire? You amuse us, unknown aliens. We will destroy you quickly so you do not suffer long." Sarah turned to her crew. These were the best and brightest humanity had to offer. Volunteers who had known this mission might be one way. She saw no fear in their faces, only determination. "All hands, this is the captain. Today we stand between innocent civilians and those who would destroy them. We didn't seek this fight, but we won't run from it. Show them what humans are made of." The first Thraxon bioship broke formation, accelerating toward the Prometheus with predatory grace. Its organic hull rippled as weapon ports opened like bleeding wounds, revealing rows of plasma cannons that could reduce a city to ash in seconds. "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah ordered. "Return fire." The Prometheus moved like no ship the Thraxon had ever encountered. Instead of the ponderous turns and predictable patterns of most vessels, it danced through space with impossible agility. The quantum drive systems allowed for course corrections that violated everything the aliens thought they knew about physics. The first fusion torpedo struck the attacking bioship amidships. The Thraxon had never encountered pure fusion weapons before, devices that converted matter directly into energy with 100% efficiency. The explosion was visible from the planet's surface, a miniature star that bloomed for a fraction of a second before consuming the entire enemy vessel. The Thraxon fleet suddenly stopped ignoring them. 39 contacts incoming, Jackson reported, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they faced. They're moving to surround us. Let them come, Sarah replied. Martinez, transfer all available power to weapons and shields. Jackson, target their command vessel. The battle that followed would be studied by military strategists for generations. The Thraxon fought with the brutal efficiency of a species that had conquered dozens of worlds, but they had never faced opponents who refused to follow the accepted rules of engagement. When surrounded, most species would try to break through the weakest point in the enemy formation. The Prometheus charged straight into the center of the fleet. Human quantum computers calculated trajectories and intercept courses thousands of times per second, allowing the ship to dance between enemy fire patterns that should have been impossible to avoid. When the Thraxon tried to use their superior numbers to overwhelm the human vessel, they discovered that their bioships were vulnerable to weapons designed by a species that had spent centuries perfecting the art of controlled nuclear fusion. Each fusion torpedo that found its mark eliminated a Thraxon vessel completely. There was no partial damage, no chance for repair or recovery. The pure energy release simply unmade anything it touched, converting enemy ships into expanding clouds of superheated plasma. But the humans weren't invulnerable. Thraxon plasma cannons found their mark, testing the Prometheus's quantum shields to their limits. The ship shuddered under impacts that would have destroyed any other vessel, and Sarah could hear the strain in Martinez's voice as she rerouted power to compensate for shield fluctuations. "Captain, we're down to 60% shield strength," Martinez reported. "But their formation is breaking up. They're not used to opponents who can hurt them this badly." Sarah studied the tactical display. Half the Thraxon fleet was gone, reduced to expanding debris clouds that told the story of humanity's fury. The survivors were pulling back, trying to regroup and understand how one vessel had done so much damage. "They're attempting to withdraw to the system's edge," Jackson announced. "Negative," Sarah replied firmly. "We didn't come here to drive them off. We came here to make sure they never do this again." The pursuing battle lasted another 2 hours. The Thraxon tried every tactic in their arsenal, from coordinated assault waves to using the planet's gravity well to their advantage. But humanity had learned warfare in the crucible of their own world, where survival meant adapting faster than your opponent could plan. Every alien tactic was met with a counter-strategy that the Thraxon couldn't predict or defend against. When the last bioship was reduced to cooling debris, the Prometheus hung alone in space above the battered planet. The surface showed the scars of the bombardment, but the Magi. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been running for 18 straight hours, and the atmosphere in the chamber was electric with tension and disbelief. Representatives from across known space watched the long-range sensor data streaming in from the Kepler 442 system, trying to comprehend what they were seeing. Dr. Yilan projected the final battle statistics onto the central holographic display, her voice carefully controlled despite the magnitude of the numbers. Confirmed destruction of 42 Thraxon bioships. 0 survivors detected. The human vessel Prometheus shows minor damage but appears to be fully operational. The silence that followed was broken by Ambassador Quentin's whispered words. "Impossible. One ship cannot defeat an entire Thraxon battle fleet." "The sensor data is irrefutable," Dr. Yilan replied. "Whatever humanity's technological capabilities, they far exceed our previous estimates of what's possible." Council Prime Zirion had been studying the data with the intensity of someone whose entire worldview was being challenged. His ancient eyes moved between the tactical readouts and the energy signature analyses, trying to find some explanation that made sense. "Show me the weapon signatures again," he commanded. The holographic display shifted to show the energy patterns recorded during the battle. The weapons the humans had used were unlike anything in the Council's databases. Instead of the plasma, particle beams, or kinetic projectiles used by most species, the humans seemed to be using pure fusion reactions as weapons. "This level of energy control should be impossible," muttered scientific advisor Krailnex of the technologically advanced hegemony. "The containment fields alone would require computational power that exceeds our most advanced systems." General Vexhai leaned forward, his warrior's instincts recognizing something profound in the battle data. "Look at their movement patterns. They didn't fight like any species we've encountered before. No defensive positions, no strategic withdrawals. They moved like predators hunting prey. But they were outnumbered 42-1, Ambassador Quentin protested. "No species is that aggressive when facing impossible odds." "Humans are," came a new voice from the chamber's entrance. All heads turned as Ambassador Talara of the Melody delegation entered the chamber. The Melody were the species that had been under attack in the Kepler 442 system, and Talara's normally pristine feathers were ruffled with exhaustion and emotion. "Ambassador Talara," Zarian said formally, "we were told you were en route to give a direct report on the situation." Talara moved to the center of the chamber, her large eyes bright with tears that could have been grief, gratitude, or simple overwhelming emotion. "Honored council members, I come bearing a message from my people and from the humans who saved us." She activated a small recording device, and suddenly the chamber was filled with the voice of Captain Sarah Chen. "Greetings to the Galactic Council. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force vessel Prometheus. By now you have probably detected the engagement in the Kepler 4042 system. I want to make humanity's position clear. Earth will not stand by while innocent populations are attacked by those with superior firepower. We have the means to stop such atrocities, and we will use those means whenever necessary." The recording paused, and every representative in the chamber leaned closer. "We understand that our intervention may have disrupted established power structures in this region of space. We understand that some may see our actions as aggressive or provocative. But we also understand that civilized species have a responsibility to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Humanity extends an offer of friendship and mutual defense to all peaceful species. To those who prey upon the innocent, consider this your only warning." The recording ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Finally, war leader Krethvar of the Thraxon materialized in a holographic display, his reptilian features twisted with rage and something that might have been fear. "The Empire demands immediate action against these terrorists," he hissed. "They have destroyed Imperial property and murdered Imperial citizens. There must be retribution." Council Prime Zerion fixed the Thraxon with a stare that had intimidated galactic leaders for millennia. "War leader, the vessels destroyed were engaged in unprovoked attacks against civilian populations. Under galactic law, any species has the right to defend innocent life." "The Melody are not a recognized species," Krethvar snarled. "They have no interstellar presence, no technology worth noting. They are resources, nothing more." "Not anymore," Talara said quietly, but her words carried across the entire chamber. "The humans have given us plans for defensive systems and faster-than-light communication. They have offered to help us develop our own spacefaring capabilities. We are no longer defenseless." The implications hit the chamber like a shockwave. If humanity was freely sharing advanced technology with primitive species, the balance of power in the galaxy could shift overnight. Species that had been prey for millennia could suddenly become equals. General Vexhai was the first to voice what everyone was thinking. If they can make allies out of every species the Thraxon have been oppressing— "There are thousands of such species," Dr. Yilan whispered, Entire regions of space filled with populations that have been kept primitive specifically to make them easier targets. War leader Krethvar's image flickered with his rage. The Empire will not allow this. We will mobilize the full fleet. These humans will learn the price of interfering in imperial affairs. You tried that already, Ambassador Quentin pointed out mildly. I believe the current score is humans. 42, Thraxon Empire, 0. Before Krethvar could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the council chamber. Dr. Yilan was suddenly busy at her console, her multiple arms working frantically as new data streamed in. Council Prime, she announced, her voice tight with urgency. I'm detecting massive faster-than-light signatures throughout Thraxon space, multiple vessels moving in coordinated patterns. Imperial reinforcements, Krethvar declared with satisfaction. Soon these humans will face the true might of the Empire. But Dr. Yilan was shaking her head. The signatures don't match Thraxon bioships. The energy patterns are similar to the Prometheus. Council Prime, there are dozens of human vessels moving through Thraxon space, and they're all heading for systems with known colonial populations. The chamber erupted in chittering, whistling, and harmonized debate. Representatives from dozens of species began talking at once, trying to understand the implications of a coordinated human fleet operation. Zerion raised his arms for silence, his ancient voice cutting through the chaos. Dr. Yilan, how many vessels? Current count is 137 confirmed human vessels, with more signatures appearing every minute. Council Prime, they're not just heading for Thraxon space. I'm detecting human ships moving toward Corvin territory, hegemony space, and at least 6 other regions where aggressive species have been expanding. Ambassador Quentin's melodious voice was barely above a whisper. They're not just protecting the melody. They're going after everyone who preys on defenseless populations. The true scope of what was happening began to dawn on the assembled representatives. Humanity hadn't just intervened in one system. They had declared war on the concept of the strong preying upon the weak. Every species in the galaxy that had built their power on oppressing others was about to face an opponent unlike anything they had ever encountered. War leader Krethvar's image was flickering more rapidly now, interference patterns suggesting his communication was being disrupted. Impossible. No species has that many vessels. No species would dare challenge the established order of the galaxy. Humans would, Talara said simply. I've spent the last day with them, learning about their history. They've spent their entire evolution fighting against the strong who would oppress the weak. It's not just their tactic or their strategy. It's who they are. As if to emphasize her point, new transmissions began flooding the universal distress frequency. But these weren't calls for help. They were human vessels announcing themselves as they arrived in system after system, offering protection to anyone who needed it and demanding that aggressive forces stand down. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when a species that had never accepted injustice gained the power to do something about it. Council Prime Zerion looked around the chamber at the faces of representatives whose civilizations had just discovered they were no longer alone in believing that right was more important than might. For the first time in his long life, he felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. I believe, he said quietly, that the galaxy is about to change in ways we can't even imagine. The question is whether we'll be ready for what comes next. Outside the council chambers, across the breadth of known space, human vessels continued to appear. And with each new arrival, the old order that had governed galactic affairs for millennia grew a little weaker, while something new and better began to take its place. The humans had answered a distress call. In doing so, they had announced to the entire galaxy that the age of unchallenged predators was over. Whether the galaxy's bullies liked it or not, humanity had arrived, and they brought with them a simple but revolutionary idea: that civilization meant protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, no matter the cost. The galaxy would never be the same. or population centers had survived. Sarah had kept her word. "Captain," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving transmissions from the planet. Multiple frequencies, multiple languages. I think they're trying to thank us." Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of what they had accomplished. Humanity had just announced itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. They had faced impossible odds and won through superior technology, superior tactics, and the simple human refusal to let innocents suffer when they had the power to help. "Send a response," she ordered. "Tell them that Earth stands with all peaceful species against those who would prey upon the innocent." As the Prometheus began scanning the system for any remaining threats, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what the rest of the galaxy was making of this. Somewhere out there, alien governments were trying to understand how a single human ship had destroyed an entire Thraxon battle fleet. They were about to learn that humanity's arrival in galactic affairs would change everything. The age of might making right was about to come to an end, whether the galaxy's predators liked it or not, for help, and had immediately rushed to their aid, regardless of the odds against them. Whether they lived or died in the attempt, they had already done something remarkable. They had reminded the galaxy what courage looked like. The emergency session continued as reports trickled in from the edge of known space. Some monitoring stations reported detecting multiple faster-than-light signatures in the region, suggesting that word of the confrontation was spreading. Others detected massive energy buildups that defied easy explanation. But for now, all the Galactic Council could do was wait and wonder about the humans who had chosen to fight impossible odds for people they had never met. In the depths of space, something was happening that would reshape everything they thought they knew about warfare, honor, and the true meaning of civilization.